it's Marcy. So today we're going to get into a nutrition talk video on carbs and when you should and shouldn't be eating them and like all the nitty gritty, because carbs is such a big thing in terms of the fitness industry. But first, it's almost summer and you know what that means? Huge blockbuster movies coming out every weekend. So if you want to stay up on all the latest movie news and reviews, you have to check out the YouTube channel Schmoes Knows. These guys are funny and legit, and they're even certified on Rotten Tomatoes. So click right here or my description box to check out their channel and make sure that you subscribe. And also make sure that you're subscribing because they're close to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Let's try and get them there. Alright, so let's hop into carbohydrates as it relates to our bodies and working out, because that's what everybody talks about. It's such a huge deal. So let's kind of dive in. So first of all, carbohydrates are just simply the body's ideal fuel source for energy. So they're supplying the body with energy needed pretty much for the brain, the central nervous system, muscles, you name it, carbohydrates are needed for the body. So to me, it seems like people tend to focus more on their carbs more than their proteins and their healthy fats when working out. They're like, oh my gosh, I have to have carbs or I'm gonna get smaller, this and that. It's really not as important as having the proteins and the healthy fats in your diet. Those two are very important. Carbohydrates, while important, they're not so extreme. You're not gonna have any health risk if you're not having those carbs in your diet. So the neat thing about carbs is that somewhere they fall on a scale of the glycemic index, okay? And that's a scale or range of how fast the carbs are entering into the bloodstream. So if I had to break down carbs into three categories, it would be simple carbs, complex carbs, and fibrous carbs. You can also call them indigestible carbs. So I'm going to go over those three, and those are the three buckets that carbs are commonly known to be in. So simple carbs are your shorter chains of sugars, which is more of like your candy, your fruits, your sports drinks, things of that nature that are quickly entered into the bloodstream that can up the insulin levels very quickly. These are also the type of carbs that you might feel hungry faster versus eating. There's complex carbs, which are longer chains of sugars, and these take longer to digest. These are things such as your rice, your pasta, your breads, things of that nature. And the last type of carb is your fibrous or indigestible carb, which is more of your roughage. These are your kale, your spinach, your dark leafy green vegetables. These are in the fibrous carbs, which are the good carbs. The various skin on vegetables and fruits will also help. So the deal with carbs, which is why weight gain occurs for most people, is pretty much the quantity of carbs that they're eating and when they're eating those carbs, which is very important. So when a person eats a high glycemic index carb, such as your processed foods, your cookies, your chips, your fries, they tend to be hungry quicker because they're not good quality carbs that are entering into your body. This is how weight gain occurs, because you're like, oh, I just had 6 cookies. Oh, I can still throw some more down. It's no big deal. That's again how the weight gain starts. And the weight gain is starting because the insulin levels are pretty much being triggered, which is causing the excess fat to store. So when it comes to the quantity of carbs that you should be putting into your body, should pretty much be based on your activity level. So if you have a sedentary job, you're sitting down 40 hours a week, you're not doing much, you go home, you sit on the couch again, guess what? You're not burning very many calories or energy. That means having a high carb diet is probably not for you, because that's just gonna, again, trigger the insulin levels. You're gonna just pack on the fat, okay? Those that are active and doing high intensity Hang Tight with Marcy workouts are definitely able to, you know, eat some carbs if you choose to, but do so moderately. And the best time to do so is, you know, during your workout. So if you have an energy drink, Powerade or Gatorade, even though I'm not a big fan, but if you're doing more than an hour of activity, feel free to drink some of those type of carbs. Also, after your workout, which is very important, and it's very important when you're eating these carbs that you try and get them in the lower glycemic index of carbs, so that you can get that quick energy back. Believe it or not, carbohydrates can actually stimulate muscle growth and fat loss, but make sure that you guys are eating the proper carbs at the right times and you'll be just fine. So I'm going to go over kind of the 3 buckets of carbs in terms of high glycemic, kind of moderate glycemic load, and low glycemic load. Then you'll have a gauge of what does what and when, okay? So starting with the high glycemic load, and after workout, if you've ever seen the guys on YouTube, I think you can YouTube it. It's like Krispy Kreme donuts, you know, after workout, this is what I'm eating. It's because it's that quick carb, that sugary carb. It's super unhealthy, but guess what? It's giving that body the quick nutrients that it needs. In terms of carbs, I don't suggest that, but that's kind of where the whole concept comes from in terms of eating the carb after the workout. Other things such as baked potatoes and fries and pasta. Refined breakfast cereals are also kind of in that high glycemic load bucket. Now moving to the moderate, this is where you're gonna find your brown rice, your oatmeal, your bulgur, your whole grain breads. That's where you're gonna find that. Again, the low glycemic load is where you're gonna find your dark leafy green vegetables, your legumes, your beans. That's where that category is going to be. So me personally, where I keep my carbs is definitely in the low and the moderate glycemic load index, which are those last two that I just described to you. The brown rices, the quinoa, the bulgur, the dark leafy green vegetables. I mean, I load my meals with vegetables all the time, and I'm to the point now where I'm pretty much staying in that low glycemic load, where I'm eating just a lot of vegetables, dark leafy greens every day, especially lunch and especially dinner. So if I had to sum up this whole little synopsis on carbs and how you should be eating it and when you should be eating it, it all depends on the quality of carbs versus the quantity of carbs that you're eating. So if you're eating good quality carbs at the right times, that means after your workout, that's if you have to have your bread and your pasta, that's when you're eating it. You're eating it right after your workout because your body just worked really hard. You can get that energy back versus going home after you just sat down at work all day, eating the bread and pasta, the fat gain's gonna start. That's what we don't want. And just focusing on the low glycemic load, you know, really getting the beans if you choose to, if it's not too gassy for you, or getting the dark leafy green vegetables into your diet is huge. So I hope these quick tips on carbs kind of gave you a better idea of when you should be eating certain carbs and how often and things of that nature. Hopefully you can share this with someone and really try and focus on the carbs that you're eating. Maybe have a diary of exactly what you're eating so that you'll see what carbs am I eating with each meal and are they appropriate for each meal. Am I waking up each morning eating a donut and going to sit down all day, or am I working out and having some oatmeal after my workout? You know, do your give and take to see what's best, and I'll see you guys later for our next nutrition talk. Bye.